People, deluded. I'm back again. I get told I rarely smile. I'm smiling today. I've delivered what I said I wanted to do to you guys. I've got Big Mo in the building. What are you saying, my guy?
Listen, man, if I've made you smile, then that's job done. I can log off right now.
It's a tough job, to be fair, bro.
Listen, you better appreciate any time you smile from now for the next 9 months, because it ain't gonna be Arsenal.
It's gonna be tears, bro.
God.
Oh man. On that topic as well, please make sure you subscribe to Mo's channel as well. You can see he's building up his own thing. I will have a link provided shortly. Let me just type him in on Google and things. Let me dive straight into it. I haven't spoken to you on this platform before. I've heard your opinions indirectly. What did you feel about last season, more than what we obviously already know?
Do you know what? I think the position in the table, the lack of trophies, the manner of the exit against Villarreal, the manner of the exit in the FA Cup, all of those things tell their own story. So what I'll speak about is my thoughts on how the fan base has reacted to all of those things that I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I'm actually shocked, DG, to be honest with you, that how calm the reaction has been. I actually feel like the expectation at our club, internally and externally with the fans, has got so low that we're not up in arms. We're not sort of like in a like crisis mode of this is unacceptable.
We're defeated.
8th finishes in a row is unacceptable. And I think there should have been a lot stronger reaction. I think the fans have been very, very forgiving. And I just wonder to what extent is the fact that fans weren't in stadiums, so non-match day going fans weren't able to look at that as the starting point for that sort of like anger at the fortunes of Arsenal Football Club. We weren't able to build on it. So I think this season could be very different, because if we carry on like that, the stadium won't be kind to Mikel Arteta.
On that, you kind of answered it. Do you think that was a luxury? It won't be as fair to say he hid behind it, but he made a big song and dance about the fans and the atmosphere. And he was saying that in and amongst where our form was quite atrocious, really. And it did feel like he was lacking self-awareness. I thought to myself, if fans were really there, we're not the most noisiest of fans, but it wouldn't be nice. Is that a luxury he was afforded last year?
Yeah, I think he benefited from that. He would argue that had the fans been there, there would have been associated uplifting performances, perhaps. But you got to be careful when you make claims like that. 20 or 19 other managers can make that same claim.
Facts.
But what we do know is that, all things considered, given what he had available at his disposal, the players, the empty stadium, the coronavirus, the funds, this, that, the other, all things considered, he underperformed. And the fans would have been very vocal about that. When you can imagine that, especially the Villarreal game, you can imagine that,
wouldn't have been pretty at all.
So this season we'll see when he does have the fans back in.
You mentioned that, and I don't know what it is with Arteta. I feel a lot of people are we're getting to that point as Arsenal fans where certain fans are reminiscing about Wenger, probably saying Emre wasn't that bad. Do you think Emre wasn't afforded a lot of these luxuries that Arteta kind of is? Because some of the same things were kind of happening, and Emre was quote unquote crucified. Not to praise him, because he had his own issues and deserved to go, but in comparison to what you're seeing with Mikel.
Yeah, listen, that's one thing. Emery deserves to go. So if we're talking about drawing any comparisons about the way Emery was treated versus how Arteta's treated, that's not to say that all of a sudden I'm not fully in Emery's corner. He needed to go. He lost control of being able to have any sort of sensible control of games. He just lost that ability. He absolutely needed to go. But I think Emery received disrespect from day one, personally. And even with the whole mocking his accent and that sort of thing, I was never a fan of that. But I come from a different place on that, because my dad is a migrant. He's an economic migrant to this country.
So you can obviously draw parallels.
I can draw parallels to that. My dad has told me about certain words that caught him out when he came to this country that he hadn't heard before. And I won't even mention the examples, because that's for him.
It's neither here nor there. Yeah.
Yeah, if he ever wanted to, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to go public. He told me that in private. I'd respect that. But there were certain words that he struggled with. And so for me, when I see, and that's my dad, he worked in a professional environment. So he felt that pressure just in his office. Can you imagine how much greater that pressure is when you're doing press conferences in front of the world? And I actually thought he deserved a lot of credit, Emery, for trying to do that. Instead, he got mocked. I think what happened against Barcelona, with PSG, obviously, that ruined his reputation as well. And, sometimes we don't realize it, but we kind of give a bit more validity to certain types of people that come across in a certain way, look a certain way, speak a certain way, dress, have certain amounts of swagger, that sort of thing. And Emery maybe lacked that. On the other hand, Arteta, a bit more sort of like in his persona, a bit more controlled. The football community seemed to give him a lot of plaudits and credit because he hasn't
held up here really for not achieving much.
Yeah, but he hasn't had the opportunity that Emery had to actually do anything wrong. So on that basis, he's already on that pedestal that the football community have given him as Pep's number 2, as one of the hottest prospects and everything. And I think from day one he had more credit, more in the bank. The FA Cup was obviously added to that, and that's not taken away from him. He delivered that. He gets that credit. But all of those things, the start of his career gave him a lot more, and I think maybe that's why he was treated differently to Emery and came under and still comes under less scrutiny and pressure.
I'd fully agree with that. For me, you mentioned the FA Cup, and I was kind of feeding into that propaganda. I mean, we heard the Wenger parallels. You just mentioned Pep Guardiola. We did win an FA Cup. There was, whether it was a new manager bounce or not, there was something there. Did something change to you between winning that FA Cup, going off the preseason, and what transpired? Because I don't know what it is with Arteta. It seems that he overthinks things too much, and it feels like a lot of personal relationships potentially with players have done that.
Yeah, listen, the one thing I'd always say about him is the thing that he really lacks and he needs a lot more experience and maturity on is man management.
Yeah, for sure.
I made this point the other day, and it's hard for all of us to join the dots on every single issue because there's so many bloody issues at the club. But one thing that I feel like I've joined the dots on that maybe other people haven't, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe there are no dots to be joined, but I think after what Arteta did to Aubameyang in the North London derby last year, where he publicly dropped him, I don't mind him dropping him, but he publicly did it, shamed him, made him look like a captain that wasn't taking his role seriously. I don't think Aubameyang's ever been the same since. And the point that I make about that is Aubameyang he's been brilliant for Arsenal. I love the guy. I think he's getting a lot more disrespect than he should be getting right now because this is the first time he's been on bad form.
Facts.
But my take on what happened between Arteta and Aubameyang there was that Aubameyang has not historically been the best professional player. There's other players that are more consummate professionals. Like I'd probably guess that El Neni, significantly less talented, but I get the vibe that he's a lot more professional in his manner and his style. And
less flamboyant, on time, shirt,
exactly. Yeah. And in a way, like Aubameyang can afford to be less professional because he brings so much more. And if El Neni dared to be like Aubameyang, you become saying curtains. You don't have the facilities to back that.
Literally,
you see what I'm saying? So
that's a good point.
Yeah, so when Aubameyang came in, a lot of people said he will cause hassle in the dressing room. And he even liked or commented in a few of these tweets that when people made that point on Twitter. So clearly something resonated with him. But given that he's not the best sort of professional, I do think there's always that maybe ability for him to react badly to a few things and maybe not act in the way that he should. And I think maybe that's happened since what happened with Arteta. But see, I'm just putting that out there. That's a belief that I have. People in the comments, you as well, Deluded. Do you think there's anything to that, or am I joining dots that aren't there to be joined?
No, I mean, there's undoubtedly legs to that because when you look at it, I don't think Arteta picks his battles wisely. I think that's something Wenger always used to do. He used to keep a lot of things in-house. He might want to get rid of you or not want you to be part of his plans, but he recognizes there's a moment. And I think together with sometimes Arteta's inconsistencies when speaking about these sort of things in interviews, it leaves fuel for fire. And there's been times I look at the Saliba one, whether he should be here or not, that that was something that could have been addressed and they could have told us what's what. You know, there's been numerous times with Aubameyang, we had the Guendouzi element. Ozil's a bit of an anomaly, but there's that. So there's definitely something into that. What do you make of Aubameyang's suitability as captain? Because obviously when you have someone like Kieran Tierney, and like you kind of mentioned about Aubameyang, there's been a lot of question marks over his suitability. It wasn't said when he was delivering for us, but it's now been said. So where are you at with that?
Yeah, look, that's the thing. Aubameyang is one of those captains where people will talk about his suitability when he's not on form. When he is on form, you can always turn around and say because there's two types of captains, right? There's captains that lead sort of vocally, and there's captains that lead by example. Players like Messi, they've always been there because they lead by example.
Yeah, they're not the shouting sorts.
Yeah, Puyol was a better captain than Messi, right? Because he did the example and vocal, but Messi is a captain not in the same league as Puyol. Now, when we look at Arsenal captains historically, Thierry Henry, I don't think was the best captain ever in terms of like an Adams or Vieira.
Literally.
But my God, he led by example. And I do think even in terms of vocally, he was better than Aubameyang. But the fact that Aubameyang was the right choice for captaincy, in my opinion, at the point in time that he was made captain, tells me one thing. There was a lack of a natural leader in that dressing room.
Facts.
Because never in a million years, if Tony Adams was in that lineup, if Patrick Vieira was in that lineup, would Aubameyang ever had come into...
You won't even get it when it's a cup game and that, Yeah,
exactly. Because it would be like front page news on the Arsenal Chronicle, that what are you doing?
Yeah, why have we got to this point? Yeah, facts.
Yeah. And I do agree. Tierney is the obvious one. Had Tierney been there when Aubameyang was given the captaincy, it wouldn't have gone to Aubameyang, it would have gone to Tierney. Subsequent is because only that Tierney came in subsequent to Aubameyang that he's not the captain. Because now I wouldn't want to do that to Aubameyang. I wouldn't want to rip it away from him to give it to Tierney because I feel like that's an extra bit of drama.
Feels like nobody loves him.
Yeah, extra damage to the relationship between Aubameyang and Arteta that we don't need. And Aubameyang loves being captain. One thing that I love about Aubameyang as captain is how much pride and happiness him and his family have shown about him being captain. It clearly means something to them. And that's one thing where I feel like that's been lacking, how much it means to a player to be captain. So at the right time, it will phase away from him. And I don't think he's our best option. But for the reasons I've just stated, I would retain him as captain.
Keeping up with the theme of Aubameyang, where's it gone wrong? Because I find myself in two pillars. I do think about, first and foremost, if your situation isn't going right, the individual has to take responsibility, and Aubameyang needs to. I'm sure he probably does. I'm sure it keeps him up at night. But I can't help but give him the quote unquote excuse of there's no creativity. And I arguably say we've been overachieving. This has been due for Aubameyang since the moment he walked into the club. It's been a miracle. Miracles don't last forever. So where are you at with that and his inconsistencies around scoring?
I always point out one statistic. Since 2009, the amount of players that have reached 200 goals. This statistic is a few months old, right? So maybe there's more players added to this list. But there's only a select group of people walking this earth that have got more than 200 goals in the top 5 leagues since 2009. When you look at the names, obviously Messi out on top, no question. Then Ronaldo. The other names you've got, Aguero, Suarez, Ibrahimovic, and then there's Aubameyang on there as well. Now, when you look at the names, when you look at the company that Aubameyang finds himself in, you don't reach that, you don't reach that company by chance. That's because Aubameyang is a very, very, very good player. Yes, you might say, obviously, Messi, Ronaldo are better than him. Yes, you might say Aguero, Suarez are better than him. But the point is, he knows how to get goals. So now that he's on bad form, I kind of feel like we have to back him as fans. The two words, fans and supporters, when you actually think about them, what these two words mean, you get fans who are fanatic. They're fanatical about things. When he's scoring, they're fanatically obsessed and happy with him. When he's not, they're fanatically criticizing him and rubbishing him. I prefer to be a supporter. And Aubameyang has done his job for many, many years. Now it's time for me to support. And I feel like collectively what supporters need to do, kind of put our arm around him and say, listen, man, we've got faith in you. Sing his name when we get to the stadium. He's allowed a bad spell. And I don't think Arteta's style of football, the lack of creativity has helped him. So for me, it's our job now. We need to get Aubameyang back to firing.
It's like you said, and I'm not being funny. We've stood by players that actually aren't worth it. And this is a player that, whether people believe in his capabilities or not, when we needed him to step up to the plate, he dragged us along. You never do it alone, but he dragged it along. And like you said, he deserves some loyalty. Do you reckon he gets back to goal scoring form?
Yes, I will say that. Yes, I do. Because, you can't ignore what he's done since 2009. Since he joined Arsenal, this is what, about 6 months? Can we not forgive him that? You make a really good point, DG, where you're saying that we back some players. There's a lot of people that back Granit Xhaka. How can you back Xhaka and not Aubameyang?
I was trying to avoid not saying names because they're always on to me about Xhaka, but exactly that, Mo.
But I'm not. Listen, I'm not saying don't back Xhaka.
Of course.
If you think you've seen something in Xhaka and you want to back Xhaka, go for it. Good on you. But I struggle to see what Xhaka has done above and beyond what Aubameyang has done for him to retain our loyalty and not Aubameyang. If you're backing a Xhaka and not Aubameyang, I'm starting to question, hold on,
what's going on? Yeah.
Is there something about his vibe, his energy that maybe you don't like?
Something you don't like, yeah.
Yeah, because that doesn't make sense to me then, And I'm saying let's unravel the layers. Let's be a bit more honest on why that is.
What do you make of him off the left? Because I know he doesn't not like it, but I can't really lie to you. I would kind of prefer him to play in the middle. That being said, he plays through the middle. He's not a guy that's going to offer hold-up play. And I just feel Aubameyang's a player. He can't be half in, half out. If you've got him, you need to give him service. He's a service-reliant guy. You need runs for him to make off other people. And I don't really see that. And when I look at us last season, I could be wrong, but I think we was ninth for goals. So clearly there's underperformance from the players, but from a tactical point of view of what Arteta's doing or not doing. So where do you stand with that?
That is brilliant because you've given me so many different points that I feel like are in my head that I can knit together, because you're saying that he needs service. And I agree. On the left, when he's on the left, he needs service. He needs that ball to come to him at the right time, the right trajectory and everything. Because I always make the point to people that a lot of Aubameyang's best moments for Arsenal have come off the left.
Yeah.
When you're looking at Man City, FA Cup, Chelsea, FA Cup, that sort of thing, a lot of his best moments have come off the left. So can he do it on the left? Yes. But the pattern of play prior to him getting the ball to isolate him against someone needs to be correct. And right now, we're not doing that for him. When you look at Aubameyang in the middle, I don't think he needs as much service. You consider the goal against Tottenham, against Valencia, for example, I think it was. He knows in the middle he can get a shot away. He doesn't require as much because he's already in the right place. So I do think he can do both, but I do prefer to see him in the middle, in spite of the fact that most of his best moments for Arsenal, I think, from my memory, have actually come off the left. But I back him in either position. I think quality will come through. It's the age-old saying, form is temporary,
class is permanent, 100%. Exactly. Do you, on that, Lacazette now, because you can't really talk about Aubameyang and not Lacazette, do you still persist with fitting them both into the team? Where are you at with these strikers? I know Lacazette's linked with moves away. Would you get rid of him? Like, what's your feelings regarding our second striker, really?
I really wanted Lacazette at the club. I was calling for him, desperate for him a year before he actually joined. When he joined, I was over the moon. I thought he'd be a brilliant fit for the Premier League. And unfortunately, it just hasn't transpired that way. I feel as though when I watch Lacazette in the middle, I get frustrated because I want to see him in that sort of 18-yard box line in front of the goalposts in the right position to take advantage. And too often he's not there. Whilst his work rate, his hold-up play is brilliant, we currently do not have the midfielders to link in with him, get beyond him, and also add goals to the game that we miss out on by Lacazette not being there. So the system doesn't help Lacazette, even though there's a player there. So if he moved on, I wouldn't mind that, provided we went and got a striker that was better in our current system. Or what it could do then is potentially allow us to get someone where, another midfielder, an attacking midfielder, where Aubameyang becomes that main guy, and then there's more creativity in the team or something like that. But there was a point, and I don't know if you remember this, where I used to love seeing Aubameyang and Lacazette play together. And I always used to think when they're kind of like 10 to 15 yards away from each other, no more than that, they link up really well with one another. I haven't seen that in ages now.
That's why I'm kind of past it, because it was working then, it's not working now. And I just feel while everybody's form is kind of shaky, especially Aubameyang's, I think you can either go with one or the other. Like you said, Aubameyang off the left is good. You kind of get the best of both worlds because Lacazette gives us that link-up play for all his deficiencies. That's kind of why, personally, I would like to shift our over-reliance on him, because I would love to see a system in place in that we're not relying on these aging players, because as much as I love Aubameyang, he's very much here for the present. If something serious happens to him, our system or lack of system is going to be our demise. On that, what do you make of our system or lack of? Because Arteta has been here a while, and I think if you really ask yourself a question, I think you struggle to look at what is Arteta's Arsenal. You see it in the big games, but I can't convincingly tell you what it is.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've been watching the pre-season friendlies thinking this should be a renewed Arsenal.
Facts.
After finishing 8th, there should have been sort of across the board changes. It should have been crisis mode in the club. We are awful. We need to get better, and we need to get better quick. So I was really looking to see, right, what patterns of play, what signs are there that I can spot on the ball, off the ball, passing, possession, pressing, whatever it might be. Wing backs, overlaps, inverted wing backs, whatever it might be. I'm looking for patterns of play where I can say clearly worked on. And I'm sorry, I failed in that exercise that I took on.
Yeah, man, you're not alone.
So that is me looking for plan A. And what I would ask you, DJ, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Go on.
What's our plan B?
I don't think we have a plan B, because I only see I'd say we're proactively reactive. And what I mean by that is he's shown that he can go into, United, Chelsea, think about their variables and what they can do and react to it. And when you do that, fair play, you plan for it, you get a rub of the green, like we've capitalized on their mistakes. It's now when we play teams that deploy a low block, and now I need to see how we're going to cut them open. Like one game that always sticks with me, and my fans are probably annoyed at it, Crystal Palace at home. I just vividly remember, for some reason, it was just Kieran Tierney. Now, if we're in a position of Arsenal Football Club where, as much as I love Tierney, our left back is going to make or break us, there's an issue, even when Saka is deployed in various roles. And that's what I believe our issue is. We're kind of too easy to read. We're very left-hand centric. You lock that off, there's an issue. We've got no midfield. We've got players that just, between not being able to focus, making bad decisions, continuous errors, they'll always make the same things. We've been down this road, as you know already.
And the Kieran Tierney thing that you mentioned is really valid, because at one point last season, a lot of Arsenal fans are making the point that actually it's incredible, but our left back is almost our biggest threat in the team. And you can look at it two ways. Either it's a really odd system, or he's one hell of a left back. And I think both of those things are true. But he's too injury prone. We're literally burning him out. We're so reliant on him. So my worry is that we do not have a plan B, and I don't even understand our plan A.
Facts.
And when it comes to plan B, this is one thing that I've been really looking forward to talking to you about, because from my knowledge of your knowledge, you're, for me, the go-to guy when it comes to the youngsters at Arsenal.
Appreciate that, man.
Understanding them, not just having like a very surface level knowledge of them, but most Arsenal fans, the knowledge we've got of our first team players, I feel like you have of our youth players. I think you really are the go-to guy on that. And for me, what we lack in this team are box-to-box midfielders, proper number 8s. And when I'm looking at a plan B, I don't know what our plan B is, but I feel like I know what our plan B should be. And that's to change that midfield to get 2 number 8s in there. So if it's not working our way, we can kind of say, right, we'll play with a number 6 and 2 number 8s. Yeah. And for me,
cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, probably the best number 8 at the club, Joe Willock, for me. Yeah,
as an actual 8 box-to-box man. Yeah.
I'm not talking about making Thomas Partey do that job of an 8. Yeah, I'm talking about doing everything, being able to get back into your own box, defend, time your runs into the box properly, finish up a chance, that sort of thing. And I wouldn't have said this a year ago, but Joe Willock has shown me enough for me to say, actually, he's probably the best number 8 we've got at our club. The only reason why he's potentially surplus to requirement at Arsenal is because we don't play that system to suit him. But I would say that could be a really good plan B for Mikel Arteta, to say where the low block is, taking place, and we can't break it down, and we might need to change things up, give the team something else to think about for the last 20 minutes.
Someone can stretch,
Yeah. Now, I'm desperate to know what your point of view is in terms of our transfer of Joe Willock to Newcastle for 20 to 25 million.
For me, I understand it. Like, if I'm honest, if I'm Joe Willock, like if I'm not looking at it as a fan, I would want to leave, because I actually feel I'd be a bit aggrieved to know that my season is just about to start for my new club. I'm probably going to be on the bench because I'm not going to be tied. When I look at it for Joe, you know, you've got Xhaka in front of you, and him staying is probably messed up plans. Partey is probably going to play ahead of you. You know, you've brought in Lokonga, so game time's limited. I felt a bit sorry for Joe. Like I said, I think there's still a lot more precision that needs to be done with him and a bit of ironing out. But I just think it's like you said, Arteta's not going to use him. There's no coincidence. He's gone under Steve Bruce, whether he's a better manager than Arteta or not, which I don't think he is. It's just the system is there. Suddenly, Joe Willock's not a tool you can use if the game's not open, or if you're using him as a 10 and you're not using him as an organic 10. For me, it just felt like Arteta said, you know what, you've got legs, you get around, just be about, just press. It looks like there's more clarity at Newcastle. I agree with what you said in that he probably is our box-to-box man. I don't know where I am with Joe, because a part of me feels he's going to be a good player and we're going to miss out. A part of me feels we still need to wait and see, but I didn't want to see him go. We put ourselves in a good position with a sell-on clause, but I agree with what you said. I've never really got the plan under Arteta with Joe Willock. Like with a lot of these young players, they're half at the club, half not. And I think Joe's got to force the boat. You know, he's been at Arsenal for a while. I think it's a good move. For a fan, I'm kind of upset because, like you said, he looks like he's finally, like, it didn't look like he understood his body. It didn't look like he understood the midfield role. And it seems like everything is starting to fall into place, whether he's going to be a great player or not. And I'm not being funny. There's certain midfielders at this club that's been afforded more opportunities than him. But it's one where ultimately we didn't see anything close to his potential. It's like, when did he have half of a season like what he did at Newcastle? We haven't really seen anything.
But you see, that's what aggrieves me. I'm really upset, actually, that we're letting him go, because I feel like the point I make here is that we're selling him for 25 million. Yeah? Let's say we kept him for an extra year and he was rubbish. How much would we sell him for?
You're making less, man. Yeah.
We're selling it 10, 12, 15. So what's the cost? What's the cost of us? So let's say 10 million, right? What's the cost of us keeping him to explore his upper potential? The cost is 15 million. 25 minus 10. Now, what Willock offers in terms of a goal-scoring midfielder, a box-to-box goal-scoring midfielder, that is so rare in world football that I think that cost to explore that potential is worth 15 million. I would rather say to him, okay, you've shown me enough at Newcastle for us to say we're going to give you a proper chance at Arsenal and see what his upper potential is. Because if he can... I'm not saying he's going to do 38 goals, 38 games.
Yeah, no one expects that.
7 and 7. But if he can even get to like double-digit goals, which I think he can, based on what he showed at Newcastle, that's what you want off your midfielders. When we had Perez and Ljungberg, every season, they were praised consistently for adding double-digit goals. If you can get 2-3 midfielders to do that, it takes all the pressure off your team.
And share the workload as well.
Exactly. And it makes you a team where you can, hit the back of the net from so many different areas and makes you really dangerous. Now, Emile Smith-Rowe, I hope that he can add that to his game. Willock, I think he's shown that he could potentially get double digits over the course of a whole season.
Facts.
Now, that's where a player becomes worth 40, 50 million plus, if he can do that consistently for a few seasons. So I don't think 25 million is good value, because, as I said, the cost is actually 15 million. That's what we'd miss out on to explore the potential.
When you put it like that, it's quite poor, really.
Yeah, so I'm really aggrieved. And, I just, I'm like you on this here, right? Where it means more to me for a Hale Ender to come in and be a success than it does for a 80 million pound signing. I get more pleasure at Saka than Pepe. But that's just how I roll.
Because he's one of our own, yeah. Facts. It's like you said, man. And that's the thing. The only thing... I agree with you. The only thing is, compared to Arsenal standards, I'm happy they've taken a proactive step, because that's something that's kind of annoyed me about Arsenal. Joe Willock's half in, half out. Maitland-Niles is half in, half out. And I'm pretty sure you've seen we're doing crazy reactive things. Whether Martinez should have gone or not, we look at it on a basic way. We sold him for 20. We're now, whether we're getting Ramsdale and these guys is a different thing.
And talking about Ramsdale, the point that a lot of people make about the whole Willock thing is that it's worth selling Willock now if we can go and really strengthen our team. But where's that Willock money going? It's to Ramsdale.
This is it. This is why it's a waste.
It's an absolute waste. So we're giving up Willock's potential for Ramsdale. Help me here. You're muted.
I was muted there. I think Arsenal was onto me. Sorry for that. I wish I could help you. That's the thing. It's like, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, what do you make of Ben White while we're here? Because I'm not going to sit here and say I was screaming Ben White at centre half. I like him. I think he's been doing his thing. You know, there is that thing in the back of my head of 1 season, 50 mil. I need to see a plan from Arteta.
Yeah. And, you know, I've just seen one of the comments, right? Someone
Go
kind
on.
of saying that most top 6 clubs don't have a goal-scoring midfielder, that sort of thing. You know, if you've got, because they're talking about chance creation as a problem, and we didn't have Gilberto Vieira scoring goals for us. You look at the best team in the world
Talent we
potentially
have
right
to
now,
supplement that, man.
PSG. They've got Verratti and Wijnaldum. Wijnaldum, even though he had a good goal-scoring season for Liverpool, is not what you'd expect as a true goal-scoring midfielder. More often than not, when Wijnaldum scores, you're a bit surprised.
Yeah, it's normally an important goal, to be fair, but he doesn't do it too much. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, he scores important goals, but he's not an important goal scorer, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Facts.
Now, when you look at Vieira, Gilberto, yes, that they're not the people that I'm talking about, but look who they had on either side of them in midfield, and look who they had up top. Look at PSG. Wijnaldum and Verratti are not goal-scoring midfielders, but you don't need them to be because of who you got up top. You can solely rely on them. And Arteta, I feel like last season he did that. He basically had 2 teams, almost like, you know, in American sports, you have your offensive and defensive.
It's a great point.
Everyone's defensive other than the front 3 go and score goals. They're not good enough. They're not on form. And it's not Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi where you can say that and expect it to happen every time.
And rely on overperformance.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying we need that plan B, or we need a different system.
What have you made on our preseason? Because, you know, me and you, we've indirectly we spoke about systems throughout this. We've spoken about certain things. Me looking at that season, obviously we know what happened last season. Preseason, I don't really think I've seen evident improvements. We're still muted. Like I said, we're still poor from set pieces and the usual, to be fair. Now, Arteta made a big song and dance about preseason. I don't know what's going on. Let me change. Sorry, Mo. One sec.
That's right. You sort that out, and I'll just speak about the set pieces thing in the meantime. Yeah, I'll give you a second.
I'm
because
now.
I just find it amazing that you spoke about set pieces. Yeah, we changed our set piece coach, and you look at us in pre-season on defensive set pieces. We've been awful. Ivan Toney and Brentford are going to be licking their lips for tomorrow night because we don't look very good at all. And from what I remember, last season, defensive set pieces, we were good. We had a good record. So explain that change to me. There's a lot of things that I don't understand.
That's the thing. It's like, even if we were winning and, you know, we smacked up the 2 London derby games, I wouldn't get too excited. But it's like, at pre-season, I'm not expecting fireworks. I just want little building blocks, a different team or a play. We've learned some lessons from the first game at Hibernian. Like, I can evidently see that first game and the last game against Spurs. I still see inconsistencies. You made a great point, and I wanted to ask you about Brentford. Whatever people say, Brentford, they're going to be buzzing. That's what they worked for last season. Well, you do not get out the Championship if you're not street smart. Now, if you look at Arsenal's defense, with the exception of Ben White and Tierney, but you could say the system is naive, you see naivety. It's like being in the jungle and seeing a wounded animal, a zebra, and your lions. You know you're going to eat. That's my problem. Everybody is going to fancy us. And it's like, I'm not seeing a system. And it's like, I was at the Chelsea game at the Emirates, and for me, it's like you could see players didn't trust each other. Centre halves did not trust midfielders. Midfielders did not trust each other. I don't know if they even trust the system. It looked like a mentality thing amongst everything with the tactics. So it's like, our season, we have to start off very highly. We have to start off quickly. Do you see that? Like, what do you make of preseason? What do you make of Arteta in preseason? Because he set himself up with saying this.
Yeah, no, I think he's completely underperformed. And I came out at the back of last season off a terrible season saying to myself, okay, we won the last 5 Premier League games. And I kept telling myself that. That's a good sign. Hopefully we go, and that's a sign of progress.
The building block, yeah.
Preseason is preseason. The thing that I always say about preseason games is, can anyone here tell me what our preseason record was in the games prior to our invincible season? No one really knows, right? Because there's no correlation. And I'll let you know one thing. We lost to Peterborough United and we drew 2-2 to FC Ritzing. Yeah. We actually didn't win more games than we won in preseason prior to the Invincibles. So that just goes to show that it's not the be-all and end-all. But obviously, you want to be confident going in. I don't think our preseason has helped with our confidence. And if I was Arsenal's first opponent, seeing their preseason form would help me with my confidence. So I am nervous going into Brentford. And if we don't beat Brentford, we then have Chelsea and City coming up. And then we're in September. Now, that's scary to me. Do we want to be bottom 3 September?
And we could go into the international break with a shaky sort of thing as well. And it's even longer when you go into that. Scary.
Yeah, man.
It's like you said. Like,
We need to beat Brentford, but unfortunately, I don't think we will.
I'm scared, man. Whatever shall be, shall be. I mean, it's quite. I think there's a parallels. You look at Brentford, or I don't know any Brentford fans, but I just think of it. The one word is optimism. You look at us, it's pessimism. And we're at the start of the season. We shouldn't be like this. It's not like any Arsenal fan wants to be. It's just we're at that point now, quote unquote. You are deluded if you think there's any sort of real tangible reason to be positive. I'm not saying you can't support your team in spite of everything, but I just think if you're applying logic, it's a case of last year where we're doing the same things and expecting different results, and that's not how life works, literally.
Yeah. And also, I think that we've been dealt a real cruel hand, in the first 3 fixtures, because not only are we playing Brentford, we're playing them as the opening game of the season at their place, under the lights, brand new stadium, not their first Premier League game, their first Premier League game ever.
Yeah.
So
the whole world's going to be supporting Brentford.
Yeah, and not just all of the stuff that I mentioned. On top of that, no one in the world has seen a fully attended Premier League game in ages, in many, many months. All of the eyes are going to be backed on this world-famous product. And Brentford, who do they get? They get a team with a huge global reputation, to basically announce themselves in the Premier League at their place. You couldn't have scripted it any worse, basically.
And this is why you're scaring me even more, because this is what I thought prior. Now I can see tangible reasons to get scared even more.
Do you hear what I'm saying? It wouldn't be the same for Brentford if they were playing Burnley. They're talking about a team that has won the Premier League, a team that's got a huge reputation, and they get this scalp. So they are going to be absolutely buzzing in preparation for this game. No other game is going on. They're the televised game. The world's eyes on them as the opener. They're going to be bang up for it, and I'm worried.
I'm worried as well, because it's the mentality. Like, you cast your way into the Arsenal players' minds. Are they genuinely of the belief that, okay, cool, we've not had the greatest of seasons. This is where I put down the marker. This is where we look back. We put in the hard work, and we look back in May, and we're being decent. But I think you can only really put your hat on the same old 5 to 6 individuals that we truly believe in within this squad. What do you make of our midfield? Because I know we've indirectly spoken of it. There's talk of Aouar. There was talk of Odegaard and Maddison, whether that happens. Personally, having a technical director that was a midfielder, having a manager that was a midfielder, you would personally assume that's the one area where there's assurances or some sort of clarity. Don't see that. So what do you make of our midfield? Because I think our ability to defend and attack is kind of crippled and relies on how good or bad that midfield is or isn't.
Yeah, I think that's our area that's really, really lacking. And it just bothers me that we haven't been able to add to it. I get that it's difficult. And I get that, and I make this point regularly. Arsenal are not the club that makes the first domino fall in the transfer window. We're more opportunist. Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, some of our big signings in recent years, even Aubameyang, a big signing in recent years, they were the result of other dominoes falling.
Literally a byproduct, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the big clubs with the big budgets that make these dominoes fall. So I get that Arsenal might do their business in the last couple of weeks, the last week when these dominoes fall. But I'm just very aggrieved that we're here working to an arbitrary deadline, 31st of August. How does that make any logical sense? We've got games to play before then that we need our.
We don't even have a backup keeper. If something happens to Leno, touch wood, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you look at the planning for this. Granit Xhaka was looking like he was going to go. Thomas Partey was going to start. All of a sudden, Partey's injured. Xhaka's not going. Look at our preparation. And God forbid an injury to Leno, for God's sake. So, yeah, our preparation is awful, and the midfield has suffered as a result of that. All of a sudden now, what we might see is Sambi Lokonga doing a Guendouzi.
Throwing in at the deep end, yeah.
Yeah, and throwing in at the deep end, exactly that.
Right. What do you make of that? Now that I mentioned that, what do you make of Lokonga, obviously? Because like you said, I feel Lokonga, I know Tavares is a squad player, Saka and Smith Rowe. It just feels like these young players, while it's commendable that they're doing stuff for us and whatnot, I feel a bit unhealthy. It's that they can't, it's not that they can't have a bad game. It's too much of, if they have a bad game, it's correlated to Arsenal not turning up. Now, Tierney stands up to be counted, for example, Aubameyang historically, but, that can't be said for the more experienced players. That's something that kills me, in that who represents Arsenal at this football club? It's players that have just come in. It's like, where do you see what we're about. You know, Arteta came in, he was very authoritative, he was very, you know, this is the non-negotiables. I haven't really seen much of this.
Yeah. Well, his non-negotiables have been very inconsistent, haven't they? You know,
Mm-hmm.
with Ozil, with Saliba, with Guendouzi, it was non-negotiable. Yet with people like Bellerin, with Xhaka,
Willian going to Dubai at a time.
yeah, exactly. Willian's the perfect example of it, actually. It's like, well, where are your non-negotiables there? Because it seems like you've taken a very hard line with some, but then with others, poor performances and ill discipline hasn't really cost them. So I don't really get it. And again, that comes down to his man management piece. The thing that Arteta's meant to be good at, right, is the tactical approach, the no sort of like nothing left unturned approach.
Yeah.
And I'm yet to really see the positives out of that. So the jury is very much still out on Arteta. I think he saved his job. I don't think Arsenal would have sacked him. So when I say this, I don't mean that I think he was on the verge of being sacked. But for me as a fan, in terms of losing patience with him, makes it sound like I'm really self-important. I'm just speaking because all I can.
Nah, man, this is why you're here. It's your opinion, bro.
It's just about what I can speak about, and that's my own thoughts. I was losing patience with him, and he saved his skin with that Chelsea game where Emile Smith-Rowe came into the team and basically changed our season. Because I had basically said, I don't want to give him the January transfer window. So he just about saved his skin there, and then we saw an improvement. And now all the excuses are out the window, all the COVID-19 excuses, and hasn't had
everybody had to go through. So it's not really like you're the only one.
So it's one of those ones where people use the excuse, I don't buy it because it applies to everyone. But other people saying he hasn't had enough transfer windows, he's not his own squad, he hasn't had enough time, all of that stuff. All of those are out the window now. Now it's all on Arteta. And I hope we at least can all agree on that.
It is all on Arteta. You know, he said he needs a pre-season, so it's not like I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm not just saying this because I want to say in December, well, you said you needed a pre-season, we're inconsistent. I can only hold you accountable to what you say. You said you needed a pre-season. Now, it might be the best pre-season ever to them if you're involved in that situation. To me, it looks inconsistent. So I can't now be surprised if them inconsistencies follow us through the season. And it's like I go back to what I said. If I could see building blocks, regardless of the results, I could stay with it. I just feel I like Arteta. I'm sure I speak for you when you say you want it to go right. You don't want him to be a sacked manager and start all of that stuff. Absolutely, but it's like, I just feel the propaganda pieces have really helped him. And for a while, I was kind of under the spell because it happened at the right time with the FA Cup. What's his targets for the season? Because he's been very evasive in his press conference, really. He's kind of answered, but not answered.
The targets that Arsenal have, I don't care who the manager is, I literally will never, ever lower my expectations for this club, because to retain a culture and not go rotten in terms of your expectations and your culture, you need to stay consistent. I'm not going to bring down my expectations for the club because we're not performing. That's where you go into that cycle and you just get lower and lower.
Yeah.
Top 4 and a trophy. That's always my minimum expectation. Minimum expectation. So, you know, I don't care whether people say it's realistic or not. I'm not willing to lower my expectations to fit in what you deem to be realistic. If it's not realistic, we need to make it realistic, right? But that's always my expectation.
That's facts. If he wasn't able to do that, let's just say he gets 5th, he gets 6th, but there is a DNA, there is etc. Well, you know, we're a couple of points off. Is there anything that isn't top 4 in the trophy that could, in your book, save him, or say, you know what, you can get another season sort of thing, or beyond that, whatever?
You know, if we finish 5th, if we're, you know, unlucky, but we've seen significant improvement, if there's a good trajectory in the season, for example, if we add the right players, if I feel like the team has got belief in him and they're well disciplined, you know, you have to look beyond just the statistics, right? So a lucky 4th place finish versus dominating games and someone scores a hat-trick, 30-yard belters.
We're creating double chances and we're actually having shots on target. For me,
exactly,
would be 20 points.
You know, if we're scoring 5 goals a game and somehow we're conceding 6 goals because Messi's ghost is on the pitch scoring from wherever he wants, you know, I know it's a silly example, but the point is you've got to look at the control that a manager has in games and what's actually happening on the pitch. Unai Emery had 0 control. That's why he had to go. Arteta has got a bit more control, but he sacrificed our attacking flair to get that control. Now, when I look at it, if I feel like actually there is some control and improvement there is definitely a way where I can say, okay, no, he's shown enough. But when we're speaking at this stage and talking about expectations, you expect things to not be as ridiculous as conceding 6 goals from 50 yards. You expect games to go normally, and that will give you a normal, truthful reflection in terms of a league finish. That's where I'd say I'm at. It's got to be top 4. If he finishes 5th but wins a trophy, fine. You can kind of excuse that. I'm not there with pitchforks out and Arteta.
Of course. That's one thing that can't be, said really and truly. You've made that abundantly clear, really.
And the one thing as well that I don't like is when people, because they've said, like, you can clearly see by my tone, by what I'm saying, I'm not convinced by Arteta. I don't want to be proved right. I want to be proved wrong.
You could say that again. I say that all the time.
Yeah. The one thing I always want, no matter who the player is, whether it's Bellerin, Willian, Xhaka, or whether it's the manager, or whether it's Edu or Vinay, I want the most efficient route to success. I want the most direct line to success. And that's never by getting rid of someone to get someone else in who I don't know to then come and succeed. I want the person in front of me wearing the Arsenal shirt or the Arsenal blazer to succeed. So, Nketiah, he's one person that really divides opinion. There's certain people that are just fed up of seeing him and they want him to just go. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why would you want that? That means we have to get rid of him. That means he has to suffer. He has to struggle. He has to experience failure. He's a Highland boy. Why don't you want the best for him? Which is also going to be, in turn, the best for Arsenal. So that's how I think. But unfortunately, people are very much agenda-driven. Their agenda comes before the Arsenal agenda, which is what we're meant to be getting behind.
And that's why I like to have you on my channel, because that's one thing. I don't know if it's socials. I don't know if it's modern fans. I don't know what it is. But it's like you said, you've made a bed. You've got to lie in it. You can't be proven wrong. You can't change your opinion based on new info. You mentioned a couple things then. I kind of want to ask you 2 questions. First thing, Haaland / the young players, what do you think is going on there? Because I do feel young people cry about young players. It is difficult, but I don't think Arteta's done enough. There's too many inconsistencies around it. And what do you make of Edu? Because I find it very difficult to criticize Edu or praise him, really, because you know the dynamic above him. But I just think if he left tomorrow, what is your legacy? Like, what have you done, really? I know you've done stuff with the contracts, and the medias that have reported on it have said he's been pivotal to Balogun staying, etc. But like, I don't know, what is your time here? What would be the Edu legacy post-playing career?
It's really, really difficult, because what framework do we have to really evaluate the performance of a director of football? That's a very difficult question. With players, you have the statistics. With managers, you have a league position, But with directors of football, there's no obvious statistics for
Lines
us.
Are blurred, yeah.
Yeah. With someone like David Dean, he was a bit of a gem. I know he made mistakes, but overall, he was unbelievably well connected. He pulled incredible deals out the bag. That was kind of like abundantly clear. But most people, it's a bit hit or miss. And Edu is very much like that. Would I be grieving the loss of Edu? Absolutely not. But
no.
But it's hard for me to criticize him mercilessly and then offer up exactly those reasons why. So all I can do is, man, this is a behind the scenes role, and with that there's less scrutiny that's available with it. Even a CEO, for example, is easier to scrutinize because you can look at the commercial deals, you can look at the revenues, you can look at some very clear business KPIs and evaluate their performance. But director of football is a very hidden one to really scrutinize.
Do you think he could, or the club, if we can't say directly, Eddie, do you think we could have done more in outgoings? I say that with the luxury of, we've got assets that nobody really wants on big wages, and we know the dynamics of the market with COVID, etc. Do you think he could have done a bit more? Because I look at it, I know it's not hard. It's very hard to get rid of Willian. It's very hard to sort out Kolajinic's future. Torreira, I don't know what's going on, but these are the sort of things I didn't want hanging around. Like, we still don't know what's going on with Maitland-Niles. Joe Willock's looking like he's finished now, but it was dragging out. And there's many of them rumblings, and have been many of them rumblings.
Yeah, I am aggrieved at that. That is definitely one. The thing I always say, right, let's be really truthful. A lot of us will talk a big game, yeah? And let's say, for example, Edu said, you know what, fine, I'll sit down in front of you. Would we really carry on with the same energy in front of Edu? Would we really go up to him and say, you're a fraud, you don't know what you're doing, you should have got rid of him? He'd probably make you feel a bit stupid, right? He'd probably kind of say, you think it's that easy? So this is what I say.
Of course.
Yeah, I want to try and be a bit careful and be a bit fair and balanced, because it's very easy for us to just shout into our microphones like, everything's easy. So let's say in terms of getting rid of Sead Kolasinac. Kolasinac signed on a free transfer, and he was in the Bundesliga team of the season the year before he signed. I was happy about that signing. Yeah.
As was that.
Willian, on the other hand, I was livid. I went on record. You can see the tweet. I was saying, don't sign Willian in black and white. So will I criticize Edu for not being able to get rid of Willian? Absolutely. It was a stupid signing in the first place. Will I criticize him for not being able to get rid of Kolasinac? No, because you know what? I can understand, especially on a free transfer, it makes it a bit hard, given the wages to be on. Now, these are two extremes, right? One signing that seemed to make sense, one signing that made no sense. And there's a lot in between. And what I'd say to Edu if I was in front of him, because I wouldn't back myself to have that energy where I'm like going merciless on him. But what I would say is that, look, to me, it seems as though when we look across the board, there's hardly any evidences of success, of you beating the market. And, is there nothing that you can do? No innovative ways of loan with certain clauses, deals that are structured in a certain way that, players still with certain potential, you can unlock that value based on their future potentials and get them off the wage bill. Like, surely you can do more than what you've done. And I'd ask him, are you happy with your performance as a director of football, specifically on getting players out of the club? And if he said yes, that he's happy, I'd feel like, well, that's a really, really damning verdict, because I don't see how he could be happy with that. I'm certainly not.
That's the thing. It's like one luxury I will give him. You do kind of feel he's crippled in that, we all know who owns the club and what they do or don't do. And we all know, he's kind of paying for the sins of previous people, with the exception of people like Willian. But it's just like when he came in, I was really happy about Eddie, because I wasn't expecting fireworks, but he used to say little things like, I like traveling with the team. I like feeling a part of it. You hear about, he kind of had a lot of things to say to Guendouzi and things. He seemed quite hands-on, and I felt we kind of needed that. And I know experience makes the difference, and it's not exactly the same, but I believe his name is Patrici, the Italian guy who's gone to Italy. Gone from Italy to Spurs. Instantly, you can see them linked and buying players are different, but they've been linked with a lot of predominantly Italian-based players, if not Italian nationals, and they brought in a couple. So you can see the ethos. I don't think it's that simple, but it's like, and I know there's work permits, but you can't. I know we wanted a keeper for example, for homegrown, but could you get that equivalent who is cheaper? Could you find that centre mid? Could you unearth something? It's almost like, people gave you praise for Martinelli. Well, actually, when you look at it, it's another scout that was involved in that. Marie, you start seeing other people are involved. So it's like, what is your legacy? What have you brought to the table? I'm sure you've done a lot, but what is it?
Yeah, exactly. Look, from where I stand, I don't think Edu has covered himself with glory. But when I've spoken to certain people, they seem to rate him quite highly. They seem to put him in a top bracket, and I'm still yet to see the evidences of that personally. But as I say, we just have to be fair sometimes. And the thing that people don't do online, enough, is turn around and say, truthfully, I don't know. And because of the behind-the-scenes nature of the role, I would have to say, I don't have enough information to be able to really, really appraise his performance, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to be able to.
That's facts. Do you feel, second from last question, do you feel Arteta and Edu have a luxury of being experienced and being in this position? Because, of course, there's demands that they're being asked. Of course, they can be sacked. But it just feels like Arteta's being given a fantastic job. Whether it's not in question. I think he'll be a good manager. Whether he'll be a good manager for Arsenal Football Club or go off and do whatever is another thing. Because it does feel like, quote unquote, a free role. And it does feel the same for Edu. And you kind of get the vibe of, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I don't know if Arteta is being asked when he's doing bewildering things like a false nine in the semi-final against Villarreal. That's all I want, because suddenly, I'm sure in your role or whatever, if you mess around, whoever you work with or for, they're going to ask you, Mo, why did you do that? Why did that happen, negatively and positively? And that's subconsciously going to make you think, why did I do that, or why didn't I? I'm sure he does have that, but I can't evidently see it. And if that is the case, do you think it's a problem that arguably they're two inexperienced individuals in positions that really they shouldn't be in at a time where Arsenal need someone hands-on and a bit more serious and a bit more been around the block sort of thing?
Listen, man, I've always felt that, when it comes to selecting a manager, I want a manager with a proven track record, not just a track record, but a track record of winning. To me, that's very important. And I don't think managers should be doing work experience. In the past, people have spoken about Henry, Adams, Vieira being the managers of Arsenal. And I always used to say to them, right, well, would you be happy with Steven Gerrard, for example, or Frank Lampard, or Wayne Rooney being the Arsenal manager? And they'd say no. And I say the only difference between the players that I've mentioned versus the players that you've mentioned, are that they used to play for Arsenal. Now, that in itself is not qualification to be a good Arsenal manager, and this is where we have this inconsistency. Emmanuel Abue, would people take him as Arsenal manager? Pascal's gone. Will people take him as Arsenal manager?
Probably
Just
not.
because they've played here, it doesn't mean that they're going to be a good manager. So I do feel like they have had an easy ride because of the fact that they've got that Arsenal affiliation. That was another differentiating factor between Emery and Arteta. For me, that's not enough. You've got to do more than that. Now, with Arteta, kind of looking behind the scenes, I do think you make a really good point there. When he tried to deploy a false nine against Villarreal, if I was above him in the hierarchy, would certainly be saying, listen, that's your decision as the manager. I'm here to make sure that we can at least just investigate your decisions and why you
did the mindset of why you did that. Because if Tuchel does that, Tuchel's as expansive as Arteta and likes to do stuff. Obviously, Chelsea's a different club, and I don't want to praise them. But if Tuchel does that and it doesn't work, there's serious question marks. I don't know. It feels like you said, work experience.
Yeah, but I think that's important because let's say, for example, on this video that we're doing, if you decided to face away from the camera, I'd be saying to you, all right, Deluded, it's your channel. You can do it if you want to, but I just want to understand why you decided to do that.
It's a bit weird.
If you said to me, "Oh, just for a laugh," I'd be like, "All right, cool. Look, it's nice doing this with you. I'll probably not do it again." You know,
don't think weird as hell. Yeah,
it's a bit odd to me. I don't think it's really like the product that I want to, get involved with. So now, if he puts down a dossier and answers the question, why did I deploy a false nine against Villarreal for this reason, this pattern of play, this pattern of play, this pattern of play, and I really, really believed in it and it didn't work, I'd say fair enough. If he hasn't got a decent reason, or if he's kind of saying, no, I didn't want to play a Aubameyang because I caught him on his mobile phone or something like that, I'll be saying, again, man management, not good enough. And these things, you need to have that evaluation of the decision-making process that manager goes through. And I don't know if that's happening. I really don't. It should be.
That's what scares me. And that's where it goes back to, for me, listen, I actually, away from the fact that I love this club and I love it more than Arteta, I can't help but admire him. I feel this will make you a great manager. Whether it's here or not, again, is another question. Because like you said at the start, the COVID, the many different player things we've had, the many things on and off the field, he's had to deal with a lot as an actual manager. I just think the flip side of that has been, it does lead towards complacency. And if the players play poor, he's asking them, if fans don't behave themselves, they're not going back to the Emirates. If pundits say something shaky, people are asking questions. And it just feels like when we win, mainly with Arteta, when we win, all the propaganda pieces. When we lose, a couple of people hold them accountable, but we hide behind the players. Now, I'm not saying it's not the players' fault. We win, lose, or draw together. I just feel you can't take the rough with the smooth. You can't praise a man to high heavens for having players overperforming, and then when we lose, say it's an issue. Now, saying that, I'll be fair to Arteta. When I listen to what he says in certain press conferences and how we go and play, I get the vibe on occasion that he's planned for something all week and the players is just gone out one ear, gone out the other, and they just messed it up within the first 5 minutes. That's what concerns me with what he does. And it's like a mistake made more than once becomes a choice, and certain people are being able to make it. And it's like Josh has said here perfectly. There's been just no transparency, really. That's actually what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And, listen, as you've said, mistake after mistake after mistake becomes a choice. You cannot excuse it forever. And when you're putting your faith in players and you're exiling other players, I don't understand that. We saw a complete lack of creativity, for example, which is a mistake week in, week out. But his choice was not to play Mesut Ozil for whatever reason. And, when we saw Emile Smith-Rowe come in the team, which we had been crying out for.
After trying Lacazette Willian in that role. Sorry to cut you off, but I had to mention it.
Yeah. And so these are like some very basic errors that I think to myself, it becomes hard to excuse. But it's a new season. He's been given the luxury of a new season. And as we've spoken about, whilst preseason friendlies, they give you a guide to what to expect. They're not important. And the whole mentality changes big time once you're in that fire pit. If he goes and gets 9 points out of the first 3 games, no one will be saying a bad word about him. It's all in his hands. This season, finally, the excuses are going to be done. So Arteta, I really hope he steps up to the plate. But one question I'm going to ask you is, and this is one I find interesting. Do you think Mikel Arteta is going to be the Arsenal manager at the end of this season?
That's the thing. I don't know. Like I actually don't know if you'll make it out of December just because of the run we've got, the kind of I feel lax attitude towards we're going. It's tough, and as you know, the players will outlast the manager. Aubameyang's contract, for example, he will statistically out earn you, and it's at the time we've got to talk about Arteta probably signing a new deal. If it continues like this, he shouldn't. The only problem I'd say maybe he should, from a footballing reason, he shouldn't. But I say he should. If you remember when we sacked Emery, it took a lot for actual Emery to go. Like there was talk of a new deal with some. So I don't know. You know, Arteta's your guy, and this guy wants him gone. But Edu wins the power and whatnot, and we get to keep him. But on a footballing point of view, you might not make it out of December if there's certain inconsistencies and we carry on with last year, bro. I'll be serious with you.
Yeah, and this is what worries me as well. Like I'm not confident that he will be Arsenal manager at the end of the season. Josh, you know, his no transparency comment. Why is Martinelli getting hardly any game time? Why for so long has he been getting hardly any game time?
Why?
Where's the transparency there? I don't understand it.
That's the thing you always get with Arsenal, and I think it's as a club as well as Edu, as well as Edu and Arteta. It just feels like there's this great big secret. If you're not involved in the whole organization, you don't know what we're planning, you don't know what we're doing, you can't see it. And a lot of that is true, but it's like that's not my job. You know, our jobs is to go to work, do whatever we're doing. We support Arsenal. You know, we book our tickets in the week. We go and watch them either on TV in the game. What you said on Friday correlates to what you're doing on Sunday. If not, why is that the case? That's for me, anyways. And I just feel. You never know the specific reason. That's why maybe we make good content, because there's so many reasons to specify. There's so many outlooks. There's never any clarity. And like you said with Martinelli, I feel our fans get really excited with Martinelli not playing. And I think it's misplaced. But for what it's worth, I also think he's not playing. Come and tell us indirectly. Even Wenger used to say little smart things like, oh, he needs to work harder in training at this. So then you can see, okay, that's why he's not in the team. Like the other day, Arteta said, oh, Tierney and Martinelli don't work together down the left-hand side well. I don't agree with it. I don't understand it, but I can kind of delve into your world. I know I'm keeping you longer. My last question.
No, it's fine. Listen, to me, this chat's felt like 5 minutes. Honestly,
it's flown by. It's flown by. It's just I always like to keep delivering my promise. But I'll take again. Get a couple questions in, people, on that note. But my last question for you would be, where do you see Arsenal realistically finishing, man? If realistic is a word, like in your heart, you had to bet your life savings. Where is Arsenal finishing for you? Yeah,
like completely frankly, what I would say is that where do I position Arsenal? Do I think we're a good team? Do I think we're a brilliant team? Do I think we're a crap team? Reality, I think we're an average team. And where do average teams finish? I'd say anywhere between, let's say, 6th and 12th.
Yeah.
So that's the range. I think 12th would be an incredibly bad season where, you know, all the confidence has gone out. So I'd probably say we'll finish like maybe 7th, 8th, something like that. 6th, 7th, 8th, around that sort of area. Because I think very, very clearly the strength and depth of the squads of the top 4 is just something to behold now.
And they're
Man City, Man U, Liverpool, Chelsea, all better than us. I always think Leicester better than us. Yeah. So straight away, pardon?
They definitely been better than us in the last few years. I don't understand why Maddison would leave for us, away from the prestige and what we used to be and all of these things.
But that is it. It's the prestige, yeah. And I'll mention that after answering this question, right? Because I think that's a really interesting topic. But there's 5 teams that are better than us. Tottenham are a bit of an unknown entity now. We don't know how Nuno's going to do. We don't know if Kane's going to be there. Kane will be a huge loss. Potentially, they might be better than us. And even Aston Villa, that a really interesting one. So now I've mentioned 7 teams, yeah, that could potentially be better than Arsenal next year. And this is barring any surprises. Because last year I wouldn't have talked about Aston Villa, you know, and there could be surprises go the other way. So that's where I get my 6th to 8th from as my realistic. But, you know, in terms of prestige, Arsenal, why does Maddison want to come? Why does Pepe want to come? Why would Aubameyang come when we don't have Champions League football?
Why would Aubameyang and Tierney commit to new deals?
Yeah. Now, the prestige that Arsenal have, you know, football clubs, they're like organizations in a way, you know, they're made by the people within them. So the people within them is the footballers. That's what really captures the imagination. The club is just a vessel. It's what that club is doing at a point in time, and that's defined by the people, by the manager. Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, Patrick Vieira, that generation inspired so many people, and we're seeing now the residual impact of all of that. Yeah. The residual
probably got a bit more credit as well, yeah.
And Arsene Wenger, The residual impact of the current crop will be nothing. There will be no one's being born now who will want to join Arsenal because of what Arsenal are doing today. But there's plenty of people that are like 20 years old or whatever that love Arsenal, that love the brand, that were romanced by Arsenal because of what we were doing when they were growing up. So that's a residual impact, and that's why we still have this massive pull. But we're going to lose that if we don't.
When do you think that runs out? Because, like you said, you know, it probably got a couple of years realistically. But I've kind of indirectly touched on that. It's like at a point, I start to think we're getting into that territory where there's fans that really don't know the Arsenal that me and you have known, in my opinion. And there's a problem in that regard. And then suddenly, that double whammy, I am quite scared of. When the penny drops for Saka and Smith Rowe and all of these guys, and they go from being naive young men to looking at decision making and thinking to themselves, is this actually the place to be? As much as I like Arsenal, I need to grow. I'm sure we've all loved things and we've had to make difficult decisions to grow. So what's your feelings with that?
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I think that a lot of people, they might look at us and think we're grumpy, like we're sort of like angry old men sort of thing, but it's because of the standards that we grew up on. You've got to realize we dined at the top table for 20 years. That's the majority of my life.
Right, same.
You know, it's very hard.
That is most of my life.
Yeah, it's very hard for us to now all of a sudden just kind of disassociate ourselves from those standards. And why should we? We surely want to hold the club to the standard that we want to get to, rather than taking our foot off the pedal and allowing them to bring the standards down, even if it's temporarily. We need to keep that pressure up, because if that pressure exists within, if I feel like that ambition exists within, the onus is less on me, because I'm like, no, I trust them. But where I don't have that trust, the onus is on us as supporters. That's how I see it. We've got an important role to play.
That's a great point. You've got a question. It says, question for Mo, you have to make 3 signings before the end of the window. Who are they?
All right. So look, tell me this. When I give you my names, let me know whether you agree or disagree, Deluded, yeah? And everyone in the chat as well, yeah?
Go on.
Onana, 6 million.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. We haven't got another keeper. You can't go wrong.
Next one is a bit out there. Not so much because of the player who's coming in, but because of the player who needs to be replaced, in my opinion. And that's right back. So because I feel like Bellerin, unfortunately, has run his course, I love him as a person. I'm very proud that he plays for Arsenal because of what he does off the pitch. Right. I just think, unfortunately, on the pitch, he hasn't, excelled like he should have.
You ain't developed. In life, people don't develop. You haven't quite developed. Yeah. The marriage needs to end.
He's certainly developed off the pitch as a person.
Yeah. Off the pitch, all commendable.
As someone who's concerned about social, environmental issues, I'm so proud of him for that. But that doesn't get Arsenal trophies, unfortunately.
Yeah, literally. It's not about. That's not to do with football.
I'd say based on what Arsenal can afford and improving other areas of the squad, I'd say someone like Denzel Dumfries. I think he's available.
He looks like he's going into, but yeah, man, we could have done with that 100%.
Yeah. And then the third one, I'm torn. Do we allow Xhaka to leave by getting in someone that's an upgrade on him, or do we add to the attacking threat? And you've given me 3, so I can't decide between Bissouma and Maddison. What I would say,
Maddison,
allow me to do this. If we're talking about Maddison for 30 million, or let's say Bissouma and Aouar for 70 million, sorry, Maddison for 60 million is what I meant. If we're talking about Maddison for 60 million or Aouar and Bissouma for a combined fee of 70 million, I'd rather do the 2 for 70.
Yeah, when you put it like that, yeah, man, because obviously you're helping ourselves. We've got that number 8, we've got another number 6. When you pull it like that, I do think our fans have slightly overrated Maddison, me, myself as well, as you would do when you're linked with a player. When you do it like that, 2-over-1, of course, I'm all for that, because me personally, it's a bit of an unpopular opinion. I would rather a partner for Partey that's able to dictate the tempo of the game and do anything close to what Santi used to do in that role than the quote-unquote 10, because I feel that 10 anyways is going to be crippled by who partners Partey or who is behind him. And it's like what we said with Aubameyang. In the modern day, in relation to being a 10, the poetry and motion guys like Ozil are gone now, right? So if we're going to do that, like let's say we're linked with Odegaard, you've got to double down on him. And I don't think Arteta has shown me enough to say you're going to double down on him. It's literally going to be a case of signing a creative man and thinking he works his magic. Where, as we've seen in defence, you can't just sign a centre half and we improve. Or by that logic, we'd have the best defence. We sign one every year, 9 times out of 10.
Do you know what? We need to disagree on something, because we agree on too much. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and throw something your way. We might disagree on. What do you think about Odegaard? Would you take him back?
Yeah, I don't think he's as bad as people make out. I wouldn't move heaven and earth to bring him, and a bit of desperation. I think it's an easier option to do than I'm obviously going for Maddison. I'm not sure on his mentality. I don't think he's soft and what everybody goes on with. I just don't know if you're the guy when things go wrong. Can you pick it up? I've seen it against Leicester. I did kind of see it in one Europa League game, but I didn't see it consistently. Spurs and Chelsea, to be fair, I would be up for it. And it probably is easier to do than Maddison, to be fair. Probably is.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps it would be, but for me, and this is why I asked, because I find it an interesting conversation. Some people think he's incredible. Some people think he's absolutely brilliant. I personally think he's a good, tidy player, but I don't think he materially changes my expectations of what Arsenal will do this coming season if we sign him. And the thing that I think that we absolutely need is a goal-scoring midfielder. Now, I'm just trying to Google his career statistics. Yeah, he's got 34 goals in his entire career out of 235 games. Now, yeah, you could say that, some of them were kind of youth. So let's say the last 3 seasons.
I ain't been anything close to the prolific standard you're asking for. Then no, he's probably had a good year at Odegaard, right? Sociedad. Yeah. That's probably it off the top of my head. That's Sociedad.
Yeah, he got 7 goals in 36 games for Sociedad. He got 11 for Vitesse in 39 games in the Eredivisie, which is obviously significantly easier for a player of his
discount
caliber. I personally I didn't see enough of him last year to make me think that I'm desperate to have him back. So I wouldn't be annoyed if we signed him, but I feel like Aouar to me probably has a higher ceiling than him. In fact, it'd be interesting to look at Aouar. Though I'm just desperate for a midfielder that can get goals. That's what I want from Arsenal, because we need that desperately to take some of the pressure off our forwards.
I'm a bit different to you in that I hear you. I need something. We don't score enough, so it's like I want everything. But for me, at the bare minimum, I need someone who wants the ball, who wants to dictate the tempo of the game, and I don't see enough. And I just feel we're in that bad sort of situation in that Xhaka wants the ball, and for obvious reasons, it's not necessarily the best thing. And then you've got a bunch of other midfielders who are quite scared. Of course, when Partey's there, he's anomaly, he's actually good. But as you said with Tierney, he's a bit of an injury one. You can't really throw it. I would rather Aouar, because it goes on to what I said to you at the start, and that's the partner for Partey. I think you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Aouar. From a coaching perspective, if Arteta shows a bit of an attacking ability, then suddenly we go from an output of 9th in the league to probably going up there a bit. I would like a goal-scoring midfielder. And I just feel the more creative midfielders nowadays, or the 10s, are 8.5. They are your hours. Kevin De Bruyne is probably the best example of such. And for me, like I said to the other question you asked me, if you're not going to sign that and you're going to sign a poetry in motion guy, you have to build the team around them. And I'm not being funny, but we went there with Ozil. Like, we didn't do it. You can't half step with these guys. If you sign him, you need the strikers, you need the movement, you need to be spot on defensively, because you don't want him there. So I'm with you with the Aouar one, really.
But, so I've just looked at Aouar, and let's say last few seasons, 7 goals, 9 goals, 8 goals. Yeah. Now this is in all competitions. So I'm here saying I want a double-digit midfielder in terms of goals. And yet I'm saying I'd rather Aouar, who's never hit double digits.
He can dictate the tempo of a game, man.
But this is where I talk about what I call the Sadio Mane effect. When you look at Sadio Mane for Southampton, he was good, not great.
People would have turned up their noses at him, yeah.
Yeah, bubbling under. Someone once said to me, do you want Mane or Walcott? And I said Walcott, because when you look at Walcott, he actually had some phenomenal seasons. You won't believe he scored 20 goals in a season for Arsenal.
Yeah. He definitely gets underrated potentially in comparison to what he actually did at times.
But the Sadio Mane effect is that certain players, when they move up, when they go to a bigger club, they become a bigger player with that move.
That's now,
the worry that I have when we sign players from Real Madrid or Barcelona is that they may view that as a downgrade. The desperation to succeed, the pressure for them to perform in their own minds is lower. It's a downgrade. They don't need to prove themselves. Now, it takes a very special player for that not to apply. You look at Suarez, went from Barca to Atletico. That did not apply. He had a point to prove. You look at Alexis Sanchez, Barca to Arsenal. He was a special kind of player.
He even got better since he was at Barca, in my opinion. I think he improved. Yeah. When did he get 20 league goals playing through the middle for Barca?
But Alexis Sanchez, he could play in the park and he would still care. He was that sort of player, Now, Odegaard, he went from Real Madrid to Arsenal, so it's a downgrade. Let's accept that. And I don't feel like he raised his game. from Lyon, Liga to Arsenal, Premier League, I feel like there could be that Sadio Mane effect.
And he wants to move, apparently.
Yeah. Now, this is an intangible. I cannot prove this. It's just my feeling. And on that basis, I feel like these numbers that we're talking about, 7 goals, 9 goals, 8 goals, he could go to the next step up. And do you look at your own, look in your own time about Sadio Mane, how he leveled up from Southampton to Liverpool. And I haven't seen that in Ødegaard. And that's why I'm kind of saying, from what I saw of him in 20-odd games last season, I've seen enough to say, you didn't show me enough.
It's a bit like Joe Willock. Joe Willock's half the season at Newcastle, and obviously Smith Rowe coming into the team towards the end of the year. It's great, but there's that thing around you. Can you do it for a whole year? For me, with Ødegaard, I'm not expecting him to score goals, man. For me, it's the fact of he's not Santi, but I really want a midfielder who wants the ball, who's able to distribute. I think having midfielders that are scared at Arsenal, I think we're in very dangerous territory. As an Arsenal midfielder, you should want the ball, even if you make a terrible pass and it leads to goal. That's actually one thing I'll give Xhaka for all his naiveties, is that he wants the ball. I see too many people scared, and I think Aouar will just dictate the tempo of the game. He's got that X factor. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan and he's a French player, so there's a bit of a bias there. Yeah. I think a bit about about Maddison, that same logic. It's like, mainly, we can't get Maddison, but it's like, in my opinion, but it's the swagger for me. It's the swagger that Maddison carries himself with. Like, to hear the way he spoke at Leicester, he was like, I like people to speak. There was a post-game. I like when people speak about me. I want to be the talking point. Can you say that with all of our Arsenal players? It's like they don't want the spotlights. I'm sorry. You need to go somewhere else, because, it's only bigger than that. You could obviously in the Prem, you're only going to be scrutinised more at Man United. After Man United, you're only going to be scrutinised more if you somehow get a move to Madrid. So it's like, it's the mentality for these players. And I think Aouar's got that mentality about him to want the ball and do things with it.
Yeah, and look, Pumpkin235 has just said, can I do it on a rain night in Stoke? That old cliche. And grittiness is the intangible. Maddison wins. I agree with that Maddison wins in terms of the grittiness. He's Premier League proven, right? But this is what we're talking about. Maddison for 60 or Aouar for, let's say, 30. Then you can complement with Bissouma for 40, and that could provide Granit Xhaka the exit. And it's just on that basis. If it's a straight up decision, money's no object, Maddison, Aouar, I'll take Maddison, because it's Premier League proven. And I feel like he will level up as well. I really do.
In my head, that's where we're disagreeing. You know what? I'd still take Aouar, Like, I'd still, do you know what it is? Aouar is just, he's a player I've watched for a while. It's one of them, man, where you just want him. Like, it's just it. Let's just get it over and done with. I can't understand how. Do you think that would be my last question, actually? 25 million. It's like, to us fans, we tried to get him for 50. He's 25 million. It seems like you've got a free hit because all the other big clubs are either financially unable or preoccupied with other things. Do you think there's something more to the story with Aouar? We've seen rumblings come out today that we're looking at him now, but why has it not been done? Surely 25 million, that's a man you could have had in early for preseason, which Arteta bangs on about.
But last season, it wasn't 25 million. This season it is. So I don't know what's happening.
This season it is. Last year it was 50. So it's like, why are you doing that?
And you hear a lot about his brother being very troublesome. So maybe he's scuppering some deals there. But, it's interesting because, we're talking about Willock earlier for 25 million. If we sell Willock for 25 million and get Hassim Aouar for 25 million, people will be saying really, really good business. I would rather keep both, and find that money elsewhere. But it's one of those things where Arsenal have to beat the market with their transfers. That's why I want Onana, because 6 million
for him, you make your money back, man.
Oh my God. And he has got that distribution out the back as a goalkeeper that we don't have in the team right now. So he's a brilliant signing. Denzel Dumfries as well. You beat the market, in my opinion, with a defender like that, the value that we could potentially get him for. Now, another player that I'm disappointed we didn't sign, that I felt like is definitely beating the market, was Andre Silva. Yes, he has moved and struggled in his career before. Last year, he got 30-odd goals, and he went for differing reports, but 20 or 30 million pounds. To me, that's incredible. And he's gone from Frankfurt to Leipzig. Now, I would like to see
another move after that.
Yeah, I'd like to see Arsenal in for that. So I kind of feel like it's a bit frustrating when I see these moves, because there's not many moves where you beat the market. Like Ben White, we certainly didn't beat the market. We paid more.
50 million. No, we didn't beat nothing.
He might be a good player. I'm not criticizing him, but 50 million was a bit of a head turner. That's a lot of money for Ben White.
One season in the Prem. Whatever you look at, that's great business from Brighton for an academy prospect that's played 1 year. That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I want us to see us beat the market, and OR at £25 million, I feel like is beating the market. Madison at 60 million isn't beating the market.
That's overpaying, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Boy, I can't lie, Mo. It's been fantastic being with you, man. Like, we could speak all day, man. Obviously, you do your own content, so I can't imagine people don't know, but plug it for a sec, man.
Listen, man, for me, everyone knows no longer on AFTV. And for many, many years, people had been saying to me, look, do your own thing, do your own thing. And I didn't have the appetite. I just wanted to speak after games. But you know what? I've been so humbled by the reaction of people and how much people have supported that I've said, you know what? I just feel like I owe it to people to respond to that. And I'm doing it, and I'm doing it properly. Every single match day, you get my fan cam, and I've got other contributors, and I've tried to keep it really sort of like open. So there's guys, there's girls, there's match going fans, there's non-match going fans, there's domestic, international. And listen, I'm really, really happy to say the latest signing, Arsenal might not be making good signings, but I'm making brilliant signings. Deluded himself, every single match day is going to be giving his thoughts on the games, man. And I'm buzzing to have
I said this weekend, starting on Friday, well, tomorrow.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So starting with Brentford. And listen, I think Deluded is one of those people that has got serious knowledge, people that, you know, for me, what's interesting, and I'm going to be really honest with you here, Deluded, yeah?
Go on.
When I was on AFTV and I wasn't focusing on my own YouTube, I was on the periphery. I didn't watch a lot of YouTube as much as people thought I probably would, right? Yeah. And I didn't really know the players, who's who. Now that I've done my own YouTube and I've kind of like explored the Arsenal YouTube scene a little bit more, I've seen the level of respect that your name carries out there. When I went to my Twitter following and I said, who do you guys want to hear from? Yeah. The amount of times your name came up. Honestly.
Appreciate to everyone for plugging me, man. I appreciate that, people. If you're listening, do that.
I didn't reach out to you because I thought, oh, I really like him. I didn't reach out to you because I thought I really rate him. I reached out to you because people wanted you, man. They really did. And I think people really respect your hustle, your graft, and the fact that you've kept it real. You're not kind of out there twerking for people.
You can't, man. You can't. It always be dodgy out there for twerking. But yeah, man. Like, do you know what it is? People feed. Do you know what it is? I can only be myself. I just feel in life, you're not being yourself. It's exhausting. People, you can't fool people all the time. And like you said, we live in a day and age where it's extremes. It's you're either ridiculously optimistic, you're ridiculously sad. I don't pride myself on being real or being level-headed, just commenting on simply what I see. If it's raining outside, I can't tell you it's sunny. I always give that example. If it's sunny outside, I'm not going to say it's raining. And I think that's a proper thing when you look at Arsenal. So I appreciate
listen, I'm buzzing to have you on board, man. Me personally, I'm looking forward to what you've got to say after games as well. Yeah. So
wait, depending on what happens, I'll probably have a whole bunch of shit to say.
But look, right now, it's kind of really happy. And we'll be doing this regularly. We'll be doing your fan cams on my channel regularly as well. And I'm looking forward to it. I've really enjoyed this chat. Sometimes I do this and I'm kind of like, that was all right. But with this one, I'm energized. Like I've really enjoyed this talk.
I appreciate that, man. Like we said we're going to be half an hour. Somehow we've been close to 90 minutes, and that just shows it, man. I mean, we'll probably have to rein it in a bit, but I've got all the time for positive convo because ultimately it doesn't feel forced with you. Like I've never done this with you before. I know we've spoken a bit here and there, but it's not forced. The way we see football differently, but we're two like-minded individuals. So I've always got time for this. As like you said, it can be exhausting. I've been on live streams where the person, I just can't really give a crap about what they're saying because I can't really believe it. And you start daydreaming. We've always been engaged. I appreciate it. Like you said, I'm happy to be making my debut on your fan cam things tomorrow. Hopefully I can make a winning debut because I can see your thumbnail where you've got your hand on your head and we're losing, but I don't want to be like that. But yeah, man, that's going to be lit and it's going to be good. And it's something I'm happy to be part of and something we've known about for a while. I haven't said it to my fans because I wanted us to be in a situation like this. So they can see it's all confirmed, it's all good. And yeah, man, DG and Mo and DG, this content's going to keep going, man. It's going to go like hotcakes, really.
Love it. It's going to be a pleasure to work with you. Hopefully Arsenal make it doubly pleasurable because we can talk about some positives as well.
Yeah, man, it might, we might even be even longer if it's positivity, man. So yeah, people, make sure you're subscribed to Mo, you're subscribed to me, you're making sure after every match day, Mo just said it, match day reviews, common sense, we're playing tomorrow. Make sure you're there post game and whatnot, people, and we'll catch you later, man. It's been a pleasure, people. Make sure you're following Mo, you're following me, and yeah, man, we'll catch you later. Peace.